Now that 156 million stimulus checks have been sent out, the $1,400 stimulus checks, the natural next question is, will there be a fourth stimulus check? Will there be a fourth stimmy? And that's what we're going to get to the bottom of on this video. Also, I need to give a PSA. There are so many scammers and bots in the comments. I'm about ready to start fighting these scammers in real life. If you leave a comment, chances are there's going to be some kind of fake scammer comment, either posing as me or someone else who replies to that. Please report these comments and help me combat this absolute nonsense. I have blocked thousands of these, and there's probably thousands more that I need to still block. So help me fight these bots and these scammers. I'm not going to ask you to text me. I don't have a WhatsApp. Just please be safe, because I know multiple people have been scammed by this, and just help me fight this by reporting them. It's getting ridiculous. I will seriously fight one of these people. Anyways, can we expect the fourth stimulus check to happen? There's a sizable amount of support for this to actually happen. Just to summarize this real quick, members of the House have sent Biden a letter. It's basically saying, hey, let's get reoccurring stimulus checks sent out every single month until certain economic conditions are hit. They say, can you please include this within the next stimulus bill? And they say that data shows that the CARES Act payments were a primary reason that poverty fell for as many as 4 million people. And then the Senate has also sent Biden a letter. Certain members of the Senate have sent Biden a letter that urges to include reoccurring direct stimulus payments in his next big infrastructure bill. And they say that unemployment insurance boosts do a good amount to help the economy, but stimulus checks are there for when unemployment boosts don't cover exactly everyone who maybe had their hours reduced, or they're seeing less pay, or for whatever reason they can't get unemployment, but they were adversely impacted by the pandemic. Also, a majority of Americans on both sides of the political spectrum want more stimulus payments to happen. They want a fourth stimulus payment to happen. Many economists too say that additional stimulus, especially if they are tied to economic triggers like unemployment, would be very beneficial. However, with time, as time passes, there are a select group of economists who say maybe we should hold off on more stimulus payments until we can kind of see how things pan out. Where if we go back like 6 months, it was very hard to find any economists who said, hey, maybe no more stimulus. So now the tides are slowly turning, which makes sense because economic conditions are starting to get better. And we're not hearing so much anymore, hey, there's no such thing as spending too much. Certain people are starting to kind of calm down a little bit. So this brings up the question, will it actually happen? After all, 40% of Americans still say that their income hasn't recovered to pre-pandemic levels. 40% of Americans. And this really highlights that K-shaped recovery, where basically anyone who owns and holds assets has gotten richer since the pandemic, and anyone who doesn't has gotten poorer since the pandemic. And obviously there's a disparity here that needs some kind of reconciliation. Do I know the answer? No, I'm just reporting on the things that we do know. Now, if it does happen, if there is a fourth stimulus payment, it is very unlikely to happen soon, like within the next few weeks. It's almost impossible to happen within the next few weeks. But within the next few months, maybe. We can't say 100% either way. Here are the factors that are going into it. Now, Biden is focusing pretty much all of his attention right now on his huge infrastructure bill. Now, this is probably going to be a two-parter, so it's going to be one part that gets passed and then potentially another part that gets passed. And they're kind of looking at that as a stimulus, or let's get the butter churning for the entire economy instead of just like direct payments and unemployment boosts that were just addressed a few weeks ago. Now, it doesn't include any direct cash, but it does include like things like $213 billion for affordable housing, $100 billion for workforce development, and other small business areas of focus. We really don't have all the specific nitty-gritty details yet because there's not actually bill text, and there's going to be a lot of debate and changes back and forth before something is actually voted in and put into effect. Now, an issue here is the infrastructure bill would likely need to be passed with budget reconciliation, because in order to be passed regularly, it would need 10 Republican votes in the Senate, and that is very unlikely to happen, especially with the size and scope of this bill, and with the fact that they're saying that they're going to dramatically increase corporate taxes and taxes on high income earners. It'd be very hard to get 10 Republican votes on this. So that means that they would have to pass it again with budget reconciliation like they did in the last stimulus bill. However, there's growing concern that, hey, maybe we shouldn't do budget reconciliation again, or maybe we should limit how many times we do budget reconciliation, because they maybe are thinking long term, like if we do all these budget reconciliation bills, if we don't have the majority in the House and the Senate maybe 2 years from now, we could have this same exact thing happen to us. We could have the same wrath back on us. So if the infrastructure bill is passed with budget reconciliation, this could mean another stimulus bill would be even harder to pass, because that would just be another budget reconciliation bill on top of that. And then on top of all of this, because we're just on top of everything here, vaccinations are becoming more and more widespread, and this is expected to cause some kind of vaccination surge where people are going out more, they're spending more, they're doing more, and this will again help churn that economic butter. I wish I had a better hand movement for this, because that probably looks a little bit inappropriate. Also, consumer confidence is up. You can take this kind of with a grain of salt, but it's basically a poll that asks random individuals, hey, how confident are you in small business and the economy in general within the next 6 months? And that has increased dramatically. Now, this is good in the sense that if people believe things are getting better and improving, they're going to go out more, they're going to spend more money, they're going to save less, and economic butter churned. Also, the GDP is increasing, as well as other economic markers that just generally cite recovery. Now, the economy in its whole is so complicated that you really can't just cite one specific metric like GDP or like inflation or whatever you want to use to say, now, hey, now the economy is healthy. It's much more complicated than that. It's a complicated relationship that we have, between us and the economy. But if we were to pick one factor, one stat as to what's used to attribute the health of the economy or not, it would be the unemployment rate. Now, this stat tells us two different things if we take a look at it. First, if we look at unemployment, new claims are at about 750,000 per week in recent history. Now, the total unemployment rate has decreased dramatically over the last year. If we take a look at this chart, we can see it peaked at about 14.7%. It's a little bit debatable, because if we remember about a year ago, they were saying this could be between 16 and 18%, and then they adjusted to 14.7. There's certain factors that go into the unemployment rate that are a little bit, debatable, but it is trending downwards. We can see it's kind of flattened off a little bit since October. It's been floating around that 6% mark, but trending downwards and landing at 6.2% in the most recent month that we have data for. So it is getting better, but it's not exactly where we want it to be. So here's what I predict happening. Biden's plan will be passed. The infrastructure bill will be passed. It'll slightly be changed from where it's at. It'll probably be pared down. Won't be quite as huge as where it sits right now. But it probably won't include the direct cash payments, because Biden himself hasn't really said anything to the effect of, hey, let's get more direct cash payments in there. They probably would already be in there if they were going to be in there. But after that, the odds of a fourth stimulus check are really tied to the unemployment rate, in my opinion. If unemployment floats at around 6%, where it's sitting right now, for the next 3 to 4 months, I think the odds of a fourth stimulus check are fairly high, because that would mean an economic marker that gets a ton of attention isn't really getting better, and it would be something to cite and say, hey, unemployment is not getting better. These people need more money. However, if the unemployment rate continues to decrease, even if it's by a 5 or 10% decrease each and every month, I think that the odds of a fourth stimulus check are unlikely, especially if we land with an unemployment rate around 4 to 4.8% by the end of the year. The odds of another check are extremely, extremely slim. So in summary, a fourth stimulus check is not impossible, but it really depends on how the next 3 to 4 months pan out, how the economy fares with the recovery, what the effect is with vaccines, whether people start getting back to work, and just how much of that economic butter is really churned. So it's going to be interesting no matter what happens. Of course, we want recovery to happen more than anything else. And there still are certain programs that haven't even been unveiled yet. Most people who are signing up for the free rent program haven't received any funding yet. The child tax program, which is going to be massive, hasn't really sent out any funding yet. There is a lot within the past stimulus bills that have yet to been sent out that will help the economy as well, and you will likely benefit from. So I would just like to thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.